Part 1. The year was 2147, and humanity had come a long way since its first steps into space. The vastness of the universe stretched before them like an endless ocean, filled with mysteries waiting to be uncovered. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Over the decades, humans had encountered other intelligent species, some friendly, others hostile. These encounters taught Earth's explorers one important lesson. Survival in space depended not just on technology, but also on wit, courage, and sometimes even luck. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge of the SS Endeavour, staring out at the expanse of stars through the large viewport. His ship was small compared to some of the massive vessels humanity had built back home, but it was fast, agile, and equipped with enough gadgets to make it useful for deep space exploration. Its mission was simple: to map uncharted regions of space and gather data that could help Earth expand its reach further into the cosmos. Ryan was a tall man with sharp features and short dark hair streaked with gray at the temples. He wasn't the kind of leader who barked orders or demanded respect. Instead, he earned it through calm decisions and thoughtful actions. Beside him sat Dr. Laura Bennett, the ship's science officer. She was younger than Ryan, with curly brown hair tied neatly into a bun and glasses perched on her nose. Her eyes were always scanning screens or squinting at readouts, as if she feared missing even the smallest detail. "Anything unusual?" Ryan asked, breaking the silence that had settled over the bridge. Laura didn't look up immediately. Her fingers danced across the console in front of her, sifting through streams of data flowing in from the ship's sensors. "Not yet," she replied after a moment. "Just the usual cosmic background radiation, stray asteroids, and ... She paused, leaning closer to her screen. "Wait a minute." Ryan turned his head slightly, raising an eyebrow. "What is it?" "There's something here," Laura said, her voice tinged with excitement. "An energy signature coming from that star system ahead." She pointed to a cluster of blinking dots on the holographic map displayed above the central table. "It's faint, but it's pulsing rhythmically, almost like ... a signal." Ryan frowned. Signals weren't uncommon in space, but most were natural phenomena: pulsars, quasars, or other celestial bodies, emitting regular bursts of energy. This one, however, felt different. There was something deliberate about it, almost artificial. "Could it be interference?" he asked cautiously. "I don't think so," Laura replied, shaking her head. "It's too precise, too consistent. Whatever this is, it's not random noise." Ryan nodded slowly. "All right, let's check it out. Daniel, plot us a course." At the navigation station, Daniel Brooks swiveled his chair around, a lanky man with sandy blonde hair and a perpetually curious expression. Daniel loved puzzles almost as much as he loved flying. He quickly tapped commands into his console, adjusting their trajectory toward the mysterious signal. "How far are we talking?" Ryan asked. "About 12 hours at full burn," Daniel replied, assuming no surprises along the way. "No surprises," Ryan echoed dryly. Space travel rarely went according to plan, and they all knew it. Still, he trusted his crew. They'd been through tough situations before, and they'd always managed to pull through. As the Endeavour adjusted its course and accelerated, the mood on the bridge shifted subtly. Excitement mingled with caution. Every member of the crew understood the stakes. While humanity had made great strides in space exploration, they were still newcomers to the galactic stage. Many alien civilizations viewed them as insignificant or worse, as easy targets. Encountering an unknown signal could mean anything from discovering a new ally to stumbling into a deadly trap. For now, though they focused on the task at hand, Laura continued, analyzing the signal, trying to determine its origin and purpose. Ryan paced the bridge, occasionally glancing at the viewport as the stars blurred past. Daniel monitored their progress, ensuring the ship stayed on course. Meanwhile, Emily Dawson, the communications officer, kept a close eye on the ship's long-range scanners, ready to detect any signs of trouble. Hours passed uneventfully. The crew worked quietly, each lost in their own thoughts. Laura broke the monotony by sharing snippets of what she'd learned so far. "The signal's frequency matches nothing in our database," she said during one such update, "and it's not following any known encryption patterns. If I didn't know better, I'd say it's designed to draw attention." "Draw attention?" Ryan asked, stopping mid-step. "You mean like a beacon?" "It's possible," Laura admitted. "But why would someone put a beacon way out here? Unless—" She trailed off, unwilling to finish the thought aloud. "Unless they're expecting visitors," Ryan concluded grimly. "Or maybe baiting prey." The idea hung heavy in the air, unspoken yet impossible to ignore. Humanity had faced predators in space before, species that saw weaker civilizations as nothing more than resources to exploit. The possibility that this signal might be a lure sent a chill down everyone's spine. Despite the unease, they pressed on. By the time they reached the source of the signal, the tension aboard the Endeavour had grown palpable as the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The crew gathered on the bridge, staring at the view screen as the image resolved. What they saw took their breath away. A massive structure floated in the void, dwarfing the Endeavour. It looked like a ring, miles wide, spinning slowly against the backdrop of a gas giant. Strange symbols glowed along its surface, pulsing in sync with the signal they'd detected earlier. Beyond the ring, dozens of ships orbited the planet, their sleek designs unlike anything the crew had ever seen. They were insectoid in appearance, with elongated bodies and razor-sharp edges that gleamed menacingly under the light of the distant sun. "Those aren't human ships," Daniel muttered, stating the obvious. "No kidding," Emily added, her voice tight with anxiety. Ryan studied the scene carefully, his mind racing. Whoever or whatever had built the ring was clearly advanced, and judging by the fleet surrounding it, they weren't alone. "Let's stay sharp," Ryan said finally, addressing the crew. "We don't know who these people are, or what they want. Laura, see if you can identify those ships. Daniel, keep us at a safe distance. Emily, try hailing them, but be careful how we word it. We don't want to provoke anyone." The crew sprang into action, each person focused on their role. Laura ran scans on the alien vessels, cross-referencing their designs with Earth's databases. Daniel adjusted their position, keeping the Endeavour hidden in the shadow of a nearby asteroid. Emily prepared a message, choosing her words carefully to sound neutral and non-threatening. When she transmitted the hail, there was a long pause. For a moment, it seemed like no one had heard them. Then, without warning, the largest of the alien ships turned toward them, its engines flaring brightly. A voice crackled over the comms, harsh and guttural, speaking in a language none of them recognized. Emily glanced at Ryan nervously. "Should I respond again?" Before Ryan could answer, the translation software kicked in, rendering the alien speech into broken English. "Identify yourselves. State your purpose here." Ryan stepped closer to the comm panel. "This is Captain Ryan Carter of the SS Endeavour. We are explorers from Earth. We detected a signal and came to investigate. We mean no harm." There was another long pause. Then the alien voice responded, this time sounding uncertain. "Earth vessel. You are alone." "Yes," Ryan replied firmly. "We represent humanity, a peaceful civilization seeking knowledge." The alien hesitated. When it spoke again, its tone had changed, tinged with disbelief. "That cannot be a human warship." Ryan exchanged a glance with Laura, who looked equally puzzled. What did the alien mean? Was it referring to the Endeavour? If so, why would it mistake their modest exploration vessel for a warship? Before Ryan could ask, the alien commander cut the transmission. The fleet began moving, surrounding the Endeavour in a tight formation. Trapped and outnumbered, the crew braced themselves for the worst. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of attacking, the aliens simply hovered, studying them. Their confusion was evident even through the thick armor of their ships. It was clear they were struggling to reconcile what they saw with what they believed about humanity. Ryan seized the opportunity. Turning to his crew, he spoke in a low, steady voice. "Whatever they're thinking, we need to play along. Let's use this to our advantage." And so, with nerves of steel and quick thinking, the crew of the Endeavour prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Little did they know, this encounter would change not only their lives, but the fate of humanity itself. Part 2. The alien fleet loomed ominously around the SS Endeavour, their sleek insectoid ships casting long shadows across the viewport. The crew of the small human vessel sat in tense silence, waiting for the next move. Captain Ryan Carter stood at the center of the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back as he stared out at the swarm of alien vessels. His jaw was clenched tightly, but his expression remained calm, a mask of composure meant to reassure his team. Dr. Laura Bennett leaned over her console, her fingers flying across the keys as she analyzed every scrap of data the sensors could gather. She glanced up occasionally, her brow furrowed with concern. "Their weapons systems are active," she said quietly, breaking the heavy silence. "They're scanning us intensively." Ryan nodded, but didn't respond immediately. He trusted Laura's expertise, and her report confirmed what he already suspected. They were being sized up, judged, and possibly deemed a threat. But why? The Endeavour wasn't armed like a warship. It carried only basic defensive measures designed to fend off minor attacks or asteroids. Yet something about their presence had clearly unsettled the aliens. The alien station. Emily Dawson fidgeted nervously. Her headset rested lightly on her ears, and her eyes darted between the screen in front of her and the view screen, displaying the alien fleet. "Should I try hailing them again?" she asked hesitantly. Ryan shook his head. "Not yet. Let's not give them any reason to escalate this." He turned to Daniel Brooks, who was monitoring their position from the navigation station. "How close are we to slipping away if things go south?" Daniel frowned, tapping commands into his console. "If we fire up the engines now, we might get a head start. But they've got us boxed in pretty tight. Even with our speed, they'd catch us within minutes." "Understood," Ryan said grimly. Escape wasn't an option, not without risking immediate destruction. That left them with only one choice: bluff their way through, as if on cue. The alien commander's voice crackled over the comms once more. This time, the translation software rendered it more clearly, though the tone remained harsh and demanding. "You claim to be explorers. Prove it." Ryan exchanged a glance with Laura before stepping closer to the comm panel. "We came here because your signal drew us in," he replied evenly. "It's not every day you find such a precise energy signature in uncharted space. We assumed it was a call for contact." There was a pause, during which the alien ships shifted slightly, forming an even tighter perimeter around the Endeavour. Then the reply came, tinged with suspicion. "Earth has no knowledge of our technology. How did you detect our beacon?" Ryan hesitated for just a fraction of a second, but it was enough to make him think carefully about his next words. "Humanity has advanced far beyond what you may expect," he said, injecting a note of confidence into his voice. "Our detection methods are sophisticated, perhaps more than yours." It was a gamble claiming superiority when they were anything but. But Ryan knew that fear often stemmed from uncertainty, and if the aliens believed Earth was more powerful than they appeared, it might buy them some breathing room. The alien commander seemed taken aback. "Impossible. Your species is primitive compared to ours. Such claims are illogical." Ryan allowed himself a faint smile. "Appearances can be deceiving," he countered smoothly, "just as you underestimated us by assuming we couldn't track your signal." For a moment, there was no response. The alien ships continued to circle the Endeavour, their movements deliberate and calculated. Then, unexpectedly, the largest ship, the presumed flagship, moved forward until it hovered directly in front of the human vessel. Its surface shimmered under the dim light of the distant gas giant, making it look almost alive. "They're scanning us again," Laura announced, her voice rising slightly in alarm. "This time, it's deeper. They're probing our hull integrity, weapon systems, power output." Ryan's stomach tightened. If the aliens discovered how weak the Endeavor truly was, they would lose whatever advantage their bluff had given them. "Alex," he called out, turning toward the engineering station where Alex Monroe sat hunched over his console. "Can you do anything to mask our vulnerabilities?" Alex looked up, pushing his glasses higher on his nose. "I can some auxiliary power to fake stronger shields," he said quickly, "and maybe tweak the engine output to make it seem like we're holding back. But it'll take a few minutes." "Do it," Ryan ordered. "And hurry." While Alex worked, Ryan focused on keeping the aliens talking. "Your empire must be vast if you have resources to build such impressive ships," he said into the "come," adopting a tone of admiration rather than defiance. "But tell me, we send out a beacon so far from your territory. Are you searching for allies?" The question seemed to throw the alien commander off balance. After a brief hesitation, the response came, tinged with irritation. "That is none of your concern. You will explain yourselves, further or face consequences." Ryan clenched his fists briefly before forcing himself to relax. Bluffing could only carry them so far. Eventually, they would need a plan. He glanced at Laura, silently asking for input. She caught his gaze and nodded subtly, mouthing a single word: "Artifact." Her meaning was clear. Whatever the aliens were guarding near the pulsing ring structure, it was important enough to warrant a massive fleet. If they could learn more about it or even retrieve it, they might gain leverage in this standoff. Before Ryan could formulate a strategy, however, the situation escalated. One of the smaller alien ships broke formation and darted closer to the Endeavor, its weapons glowing ominously. "They're targeting us," Laura shouted, her voice sharp with panic. "Hold steady," Ryan commanded, raising his hand to stop Daniel from maneuvering the ship. Any sudden movement could provoke an attack. Instead, he addressed the aliens once more, his tone firm but measured. "Attacking us would be a mistake. Humanity does not seek conflict, but neither do we tolerate aggression. Stand down, or both sides will suffer." To everyone's surprise, the alien ship halted its advance. A new voice joined the conversation, softer and less hostile than the previous commanders. "Commander Vorthok, perhaps we should hear them out. Their arrival coincides with unusual readings from the artifact. Coincidence seems unlikely." The original Commander Vorthok growled in frustration. "Silence, Kale. Do not interfere, Kale." Ryan filed the name away for later. Whoever this Kale was, they seemed to hold some influence and perhaps even sympathy for the humans. It was a slim hope, but Ryan decided to press it. "Commander Vorthok," he said, addressing the alien leader directly, "we mean no harm. Our mission is peaceful. Allow us to prove it by sharing information about the artifact you mentioned. Clearly, it holds great significance for all of us." Another long pause followed. The tension aboard the Endeavor was almost unbearable. Finally Vorthok spoke, his voice dripping with disdain. "Very well, dock with our outpost. Submit to inspection. If you lie, you will die." Ryan let out a slow breath. It wasn't exactly permission to leave, but it was better than outright hostility. "Agreed," he said, nodding to Emily to confirm receipt of the message. As the transmission ended, the crew erupted into quiet murmurs of relief mixed with apprehension. "Docking with them feels like walking into a lion's den," Daniel muttered, adjusting their trajectory toward the designated outpost. "It is," Ryan admitted bluntly, "but we don't have much of a choice. For now, we play along, keep our eyes open for opportunities." Laura nodded, already pulling up schematics of the alien outpost based on preliminary scans. Their tech looks advanced, but not impenetrable. If we're careful, we might find something useful while we're there. And if we're not careful, Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Then we'll deal with it, Ryan said firmly. One step at a time. As the Endeavor approached the outpost, the crew prepared for what lay ahead. Alex finished masking their weaknesses, ensuring the ship appeared more formidable than it actually was. Laura double-checked her equipment, ready to analyze anything the aliens threw at them. Daniel guided the ship smoothly into the docking bay, his hands steady despite the nerves coursing through him. When the airlock hissed open and the ramp extended, Ryan led the way, flanked by Laura and Emily. Behind them, Alex stayed aboard the Endeavor, monitoring the situation remotely. As they stepped onto the alien platform, they were greeted by a group of Zorathian soldiers, their exoskeletal armor gleaming menacingly in the artificial light. At the center of the group stood Commander Vorthok, taller and broader than the others, with ridged plates running down his back and glowing green eyes that fixed on Ryan with undisguised hostility. Beside him stood Kale, the one who had spoken earlier. Unlike the others, Kale wore simpler armor and carried himself with a quiet dignity that set him apart. You have 10 minutes to demonstrate your worth, Vorthok growled, gesturing sharply for them to follow. Ryan nodded, maintaining his composure. Lead the way. As they moved through the outpost, Laura discreetly scanned everything in sight, feeding data back to Alex aboard the ship. Emily kept her focus on the aliens, watching for any signs of betrayal. And Ryan simply walked tall, projecting an aura of confidence that masked the storm of thoughts racing through his mind. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: humanity's fate depended on the choices they made in the hours to come. Part 3. The Zorathian outpost was a labyrinth of metallic corridors and dimly lit chambers, each step echoing with the faint hum of alien machinery. Ryan Carter led his small team through the winding passages, flanked by Laura Bennett and Emily Dawson. Behind them trailed a group of heavily armed Zorathian soldiers, their insectoid forms casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air smelled faintly of ozone and something metallic, making it hard to breathe comfortably. Despite the tension, Ryan kept his pace steady, refusing to show any sign of fear. Commander Vorthok walked ahead, his massive frame moving with an unsettling grace. His glowing green eyes occasionally flicked back toward the humans, as if gauging their reactions. Beside him, Kale, the quieter, more reserved Zorathian, remained silent, though his gaze lingered on the humans longer than necessary. There was something about Kale that felt different from the others, less hostile and more curious. Ryan made a mental note to keep an eye on him. Allies in unexpected places could make all the difference. As they entered a large chamber filled with consoles, holographic displays, and strange equipment, Vorthok turned to face them. "This is our command center," he announced gruffly. "You will demonstrate your claims here." Ryan nodded, stepping forward cautiously. "What exactly do you want us to prove?" he asked, keeping his tone neutral. Vorthok crossed his arms over his chest, his exoskeletal armor clicking softly. "Your so-called advanced detection methods. Show us how you tracked our beacon." Laura stepped up beside Ryan, her tablet already displaying the data she had collected during their approach. She tapped a few commands, bringing up a simplified version of the signal analysis. "Our sensors detected a rhythmic pulse in the electromagnetic spectrum," she explained, pointing to the graph on the screen. It matched no known natural phenomenon, which suggested artificial origin. One of the Zorathians at the consoles leaned closer, studying the readout with visible interest. Even Vorthok seemed momentarily intrigued, though he quickly masked it with a scowl. "Primitive technology can detect such signals," he countered. "This proves nothing." Ryan glanced at Laura, who gave him a subtle nod. They had anticipated skepticism and prepared accordingly. True, Ryan admitted, but detecting a signal is one thing, interpreting its meaning is another. He gestured for Laura to continue. She pulled up another set of data, this time showing the frequency modulation patterns of the signal. We analyzed the structure of the pulse and identified embedded mathematical sequences consistent with communication protocols, she said confidently. That's what drew us here, not just the signal itself, but the intelligence behind it. A low murmur spread among the Zorathians in the room. Some exchanged glances, while others tapped furiously at their consoles, likely cross-referencing her findings. Kale moved closer, his expression thoughtful. Mathematical sequences. Intriguing, he murmured, almost to himself. Vorthok growled impatiently. Enough of these games. If you are truly explorers, then share knowledge of your own systems. Let us see if your claims hold weight. Ryan hesitated briefly before nodding. Fair enough. He turned to Emily, who pulled out a portable holoprojector. With a few taps, she activated a three-dimensional model of the SS Endeavour, rotating it slowly for the Zorathians to examine. The design was sleek, compact, and unmistakably advanced compared to most human vessels. A deliberate choice when the ship was built, aimed at efficiency rather than brute force. This is our vessel, Ryan explained. Its propulsion system uses quantum field manipulation to achieve faster-than-light travel without destabilizing local space-time. Our shielding technology incorporates adaptive algorithms to counteract incoming threats, and our sensor array enough. Vorthok barked, cutting him off, but Ryan noticed something telling. Several Zorothians were leaning forward, their glowing eyes fixed intently on the hologram. Whatever doubts they had harbored earlier were beginning to waver. Kale stepped forward, addressing Vorthok directly. Commander, perhaps we should consider their offer of cooperation. Their understanding of quantum fields aligns closely with theories we have struggled to perfect. Vorthok snarled, clearly irritated by Kale's interference. Do not presume to question my authority, engineer. I speak only logic, Kale replied calmly, meeting Vorthok's glare without flinching. If their technology holds value, dismissing them outright would be foolish. Ryan seized the moment. Commander, we're not asking for much, just the chance to work together. Humanity has always valued mutual exchange. Sharing knowledge benefits both sides. Vorthok hesitated, his mandibles twitching as he weighed the options. Finally, he let out a guttural sigh. Very well, you may remain for now, but any false move will result in your destruction. He turned sharply and strode out of the chamber, leaving Kale and a handful of other Zorathians behind. Once Vorthok was gone, the atmosphere in the room shifted slightly. The remaining Zorathians relaxed marginally, some even approaching the humans with cautious curiosity. Kale lingered near Ryan, his posture less rigid than before. You intrigue me, Captain Carter, Kale said quietly. Your species shows potential despite its youth. Ryan raised an eyebrow. And yet your commander seems eager to dismiss us. Kale's antennae twitched faintly, a gesture Ryan interpreted as amusement. Vorthok fears what he does not understand. Many in our empire share his views. But I believe fear stifles progress. Laura interjected gently, sensing an opportunity. Progress is something humanity values deeply. Perhaps there's common ground between us. Kale tilted his head, considering her words. Perhaps. For now, tread carefully. Trust is scarce, among my kind, and even rarer, toward outsiders. With that cryptic warning, Kale excused himself, leaving the humans alone in the chamber. As soon as he was out of earshot, Emily exhaled sharply. Well, that was intense. Ryan chuckled dryly, understatement of the century. Still, we've bought ourselves some time. Let's make the most of it. Laura immediately got to work, discreetly scanning the room for any useful information. Her tablet buzzed softly as it recorded data from nearby consoles. Meanwhile, Emily kept watch, ensuring none of the lingering Zorathians grew suspicious of their activities. Back aboard the SS Endeavour, Alex Monroe monitored the situation remotely, feeding updates to the team via comms. "Guys, I'm picking up energy spikes coming from deeper within the outpost," he reported. "Looks like they're powering up something big. Could be related to that artifact Laura mentioned earlier." Ryan frowned. "Keep digging, Alex. We need to know what we're dealing with." Hours passed as the crew gathered intel, piecing together fragments of information about the Zorathian Empire. From snippets of conversation and intercepted transmissions, they learned that the artifact was central to their operations, an ancient device discovered decades ago, believed to hold immense power. Its exact function remained unclear, but the Zorathians guarded it fiercely, using it as leverage in their campaigns of conquest. By evening, fatigue began to creep in, but Ryan refused to let his guard down. He called a quick meeting in one of the outpost's unused chambers, where the team could speak freely. "All right, here's the situation," he began, pacing slowly. "We've earned a temporary reprieve, but Vorthok isn't going to let us leave anytime soon. Our best bet is to find out more about this artifact. If we can figure out what it does, or better yet, how to use it, we might gain leverage." "But how do we get close to it?" Emily asked. "They're not just going to hand it over." "That's where Cale comes in," Ryan replied. "He's sympathetic to our cause, or at least curious enough to listen. If we play our cards right, we might be able to turn him into an ally." Laura nodded thoughtfully. "It's risky, but it could work. We'll need to tread carefully, though. One wrong move, and we're dead." "Agreed," Ryan said firmly. "For now, let's focus on gathering more intel. Laura, keep analyzing their tech. Emily, stay sharp and watch for opportunities to talk to Cale. Alex, keep monitoring everything from the ship. We stick together, and we stay smart." As the meeting broke up, Ryan allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. The stakes were higher than ever, and failure wasn't an option. Humanity's survival depended on their ability to adapt, improvise, and persevere. And if they played their hand correctly, they might just pull off the impossible. Little did they know, the artifact held secrets far greater than anyone imagined, and uncovering them would change everything. Part 4. The next morning, the crew of the SS Endeavour woke to find the Zorathian outpost humming with activity. Engineers scurried through the corridors, their exoskeletal limbs clicking against the metal floors as they carried tools and equipment. Soldiers patrolled in tight formations, their weapons charged and ready. Something big was happening, and Ryan Carter could feel it in the air, a tension that made his skin prickle as he led Laura Bennett and Emily Dawson back to the command center. Ryan noticed subtle changes in the atmosphere. The Zorathians seemed more alert, almost anxious. Even Cale, who had shown a hint of curiosity toward them the day before, now moved with purpose, his movements brisk and focused. When Ryan tried to catch his eye, Cale avoided looking at him altogether, disappearing into a side corridor before Ryan could say anything. "What's going on?" Emily whispered, her voice tinged with unease. "They're acting like they're preparing for war." "They might be," Ryan replied grimly. "Whatever this artifact is, it's clearly important enough to stir up the entire outpost. We need to figure out what's happening, and fast." Laura nodded, clutching her tablet tighter. "I've been analyzing their energy readings. There's a massive surge coming from deep within the facility. It matches the signature of the beacon we followed here." Ryan frowned. "So the artifact isn't just sitting idle, it's active. That explains why they're so jumpy." Before they could discuss further, a group of Zorathian soldiers blocked their path, their glowing eyes fixed on the humans. One of them stepped forward, his voice sharp and commanding. "You are summoned to the central chamber. Commander Vorthok demands your presence." Ryan exchanged a glance with Laura and Emily. This wasn't good. Being called to see Vorthok usually meant trouble. Still, They had no choice but to comply. "Lead the way," Ryan said evenly, keeping his tone calm despite the knot forming in his stomach. The soldiers escorted them through a series of reinforced doors, each one sliding open with a hydraulic hiss. The deeper they went, the colder the air became, carrying a faint metallic temps that made breathing uncomfortable. Finally, they reached a vast chamber unlike anything they'd seen before. At its center stood a towering structure, a crystalline obelisk, pulsating with an otherworldly light. Energy crackled around it in arcs, casting eerie shadows across the walls. Vorthok waited nearby, flanked by a group of high-ranking officers. His expression was unreadable, but his posture screamed authority. As the humans approached, he gestured sharply for them to stop. "You claim to seek knowledge," he growled, "then witness the power of the ancients." Without waiting for a response, Vorthok turned to one of his engineers, who activated a control panel near the base of the obelisk. The room vibrated as the artifact came to life, its glow intensifying until it filled the entire chamber. A low hum resonated through the floor, growing louder and more intense by the second. Then, suddenly, beams of light shot outward, forming intricate patterns in the air shapes that resembled constellations, mathematical formulas, and even biological structures. "It's communicating," Laura breathed, her eyes wide with awe. "This isn't just a relic, it's a repository of information." "But for what purpose?" Ryan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Before anyone could answer, the lights dimmed, and the hum subsided. Vorthok turned back to the humans, his mandibles twitching with barely concealed excitement. "Behold the legacy of the progenitors, the first architects of the galaxy. With this device, we will unlock secrets beyond comprehension and secure our dominance over all species." Ryan felt a chill run down his spine. If the Zorathians managed to fully harness the artifact's power, it would give them an insurmountable advantage. Humanity would stand no chance against such overwhelming force. "We need to stop them," Emily muttered under her breath, echoing Ryan's thoughts. But how? They were outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped inside an alien stronghold. Any attempt to sabotage the artifact would likely end in disaster. Still, Ryan knew they couldn't afford to sit idly by. He needed a plan, and quickly. Later that evening, after being dismissed from the chamber, Ryan gathered his team in a quiet corner of the outpost. Alex Monroe joined them via comms, providing updates from the ship. "Guys, I've been monitoring the artifact's energy output," he reported. "It's unstable. If they push it too hard, it could overload. Problem is, I don't know if that would destroy Yator, make it even more dangerous. Either way, it's a risk we can't ignore," Ryan said firmly. "If we let the Zorathians keep experimenting with it, they'll figure out how to use it against us and everyone else." "So what do we do?" Laura asked, her brow furrowed with concern. "We can't exactly waltz in there and shut it down." "No, but maybe we can create a distraction," Ryan suggested. "Something big enough to draw their attention away from the artifact while we disable it, or at least by ourselves some time." Emily raised a hand hesitantly. "What about Kale? He seemed interested in working with us yesterday. Maybe he can help." Ryan nodded thoughtfully. "Worth a shot, but we'll have to be careful. If Vorthok finds out, it's game over for all of us." The next day, Emily took the lead in approaching Kale. She spotted him in one of the engineering bays, tinkering with a piece of equipment. Taking a deep breath, she walked over and cleared her throat softly. "Kale, can I talk to you?" Kale looked up, surprise flickering across his face. For a moment, he hesitated, then nodded. "Speak. Quickly. We are watched." "I know," Emily said, lowering her voice. "Listen, we need your help. That artifact, it's not safe. If the commander keeps pushing it, it could cause catastrophic damage. Not just to us, but to everyone." Kale's antennae twitched, and he glanced around nervously. "You think I don't know this?" Many of us fear what Vorthok plans, but opposing him is suicide. Not necessarily, Emily pressed. If we work together, we can stop him. You understand technology better than anyone here. Help us disable the artifact or, at least delay its activation. Kale stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he sighed. Very well. But you must act swiftly. Once the artifact reaches critical capacity, there may be no turning back. With Kale's reluctant agreement, the team sprang into action. Laura worked tirelessly to map the outpost's layout, identifying key points where they could disrupt operations without triggering immediate suspicion. Alex coordinated remotely, using the Endeavor's systems to create false alarms throughout the facility. Meanwhile, Ryan and Emily prepared for the most dangerous part of the plan, infiltrating the central chamber, under the cover of darkness. The crew moved cautiously through the outpost. Kale met them halfway, guiding them through hidden passages that bypassed the main security checkpoints. This route leads directly to the artifact, he explained in a hushed tone. But you must hurry. My absence will not go unnoticed for long. Ryan nodded gratefully. Thank you, Kale. We won't forget this. When they finally reached the central chamber, the sight of the obelisk sent a shiver down their spines. Its glow pulsed erratically, and the hum had grown louder, almost deafening. Laura immediately set to work, connecting her tablet to a nearby console. Her fingers flew across the screen as she attempted to access the artifact's core systems. It's locked behind multiple firewalls, she muttered, frustration creeping into her voice. I need more time. You don't have it, Ryan reminded her gently. Just do what you can. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed down the corridor outside. Vorthak's voice boomed angrily, shouting orders to his soldiers. There. Onto us, Emily hissed, panic rising in her chest. Keep working, Ryan commanded, drawing his sidearm. I'll hold them off. No, Laura snapped, her voice firm despite the chaos. We stay together. If they capture us, we're dead anyway. Finish this, or none of it matters. Ryan hesitated, torn between protecting his team and completing the mission. But Laura was right, they didn't have the luxury of splitting up. With renewed determination, he joined Emily in guarding the entrance while Laura worked feverishly to disable the artifact. Finally, after what felt like hours, Laura let out a triumphant cry. Got it. I've initiated a shutdown sequence. The obelisk's glow dimmed slightly, and the hum began to fade. But before they could celebrate, Vorthok burst into the chamber, his weapon raised. You fools, he roared. Do you realize what you've done? Ryan stepped forward, raising his hands in a gesture of surrender. Commander, listen to me. That thing is unstable. If it overloads, it'll destroy this entire outpost including you. Vorthok snarled, his glowing eyes narrowing dangerously. Silence. You have no idea what you meddle with. Before he could fire, Kale appeared behind him, grabbing his arm and forcing it downward. Enough, Vorthok, Kale shouted, his voice ringing with authority. Your obsession with power has blinded you to the risks. These humans may have saved us all. For a moment, everything froze. Vorthok glared at Kale, betrayal flashing in his eyes. Traitor, he spat venomously. And yet, I am still loyal to the survival of our people, Kale replied calmly. Stand down, or face the consequences. The standoff lasted only seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Slowly, reluctantly, Vorthok lowered his weapon. The tension in the room eased ever so slightly, though the danger was far from over. A way to ensure humanity's place in a galaxy that Part 5. The aftermath of the artifact's shutdown left the Zorathian outpost in a state of uneasy calm. Commander Vorthok stood rigid, his glowing green eyes burning with barely contained fury as he glared at Kale and the humans. The air was thick with tension, each second stretching longer than the last. Ryan Carter kept his hands raised, signaling surrender, but his mind raced with possibilities. They had managed to disable the artifact, but that didn't mean they were safe. Not yet. Kale stepped forward, positioning himself between Vorthok and the humans. His voice was calm but firm. "Commander, listen to reason. If the artifact had overloaded, it would have destroyed this entire outpost and possibly more. These humans acted to prevent disaster." Vorthok's mandibles twitched angrily, but he didn't move to attack. Instead, he turned his gaze on Ryan, his tone dripping with venom. "You meddle in matters beyond your understanding. This will not be forgotten." Ryan met his glare without flinching. "We're explorers, not saboteurs. We came here seeking knowledge, not conflict. But when we saw the risks posed by the artifact, we couldn't stand by and do nothing." For a long moment, no one spoke. The hum of machinery in the background filled the silence, punctuated only by the faint crackle of energy still dissipating from the obelisk. Finally, Vorthok let out a low growl and signaled for his soldiers to lower their weapons. "Take them back to their ship," he ordered curtly. "They are no longer welcome here." Kale hesitated, then nodded slightly. "It is done. Let us hope cooler heads prevail." As the group began to leave the chamber, Ryan exchanged a quick glance with Laura Bennett and Emily Dawson. Their expressions mirrored his own mix of relief and apprehension. They had survived for now, but the situation remained precarious. The Zorathians might have backed down temporarily, but there was no telling how long their restraint would last. Back aboard the SS Endeavour, the crew gathered on the bridge to debrief. Alex Monroe joined them after securing the engineering bay, his face pale with exhaustion. "That was too close," he muttered, collapsing into a chair. "If Kale hadn't stepped in, we'd all be dead." "He took a huge risk helping us," Laura said thoughtfully, "and not just by stopping Vorthok. He defied his own commander in front of everyone. That kind of rebellion doesn't come lightly." Ryan nodded, pacing slowly across the bridge. "Kale's actions tell us something important. There's dissent within the Zorathian ranks. Some of them don't agree with Vorthok's methods or his goals. If we play our cards right, we might be able to turn that to our advantage." Emily frowned, leaning against the console. "But how? We can't exactly start a revolution single-handedly." "No, but we can plant seeds," Ryan replied. "Kale already trusts us enough to help. If we can convince others like him, people who question Vorthok's leadership, we might inspire change from within." Laura looked up from her tablet, where she was reviewing data collected during their time in the outpost. "It's risky. Fomenting rebellion could make things worse if we're caught. But it might also be our best chance to weaken the Empire." Ryan stopped pacing and turned to face his crew. "We've been through tough situations before, and we've always found a way to pull through. This time won't be any different. For now, let's focus on staying alive while we figure out our next move." Over the next few days, the crew worked tirelessly to prepare the Endeavour for departure. Though the Zorathians had allowed them to return to their ship, they weren't letting them leave just yet. A squadron of insectoid vessels maintained a tight perimeter around the outpost, cutting off any escape routes. Meanwhile, tensions simmered below the surface as rumors spread among the outpost's inhabitants about what had happened in the central chamber. During this time, Emily took the lead in covert communications with Kale, using encrypted messages transmitted through the outpost's internal network. She reached out to him under the guise of routine maintenance checks. At first, Kale responded cautiously, wary of being discovered. But as trust grew between them, he began sharing valuable information about the Zorathian Empire's inner workings. "They're stretched thin," Emily reported during one of their briefings. "Kale says the Empire has been expanding too quickly, pushing its resources to the limit. There are colonies on the fringe that feel neglected, and some factions are starting to resent Vorthok's aggressive policies." "That's good news for us," Alex said, tapping commands into his console. "If the Empire's crumbling from the inside, Maybe we can exploit those cracks. Exploit isn't the word I'd use, Ryan corrected gently. Our goal isn't to destroy the Zorathians, it's to protect humanity and ensure peace. If we can help the oppressed voices rise up, we'll create opportunities for diplomacy instead of domination. Laura nodded in agreement, and Kale seems like someone who wants the same thing. He's intelligent, resourceful, and clearly disillusioned with Vorthok. If anyone can rally others to his cause, it's him. With Kale's assistance, the crew devised a plan to amplify dissatisfaction within the Empire. Using the Endeavor's communication systems, they broadcast carefully crafted messages to nearby Zorathian outposts. The transmissions highlighted Earth's history of resisting tyranny and emphasized the importance of unity and cooperation over conquest. To avoid detection, they disguised these messages as routine data packets, embedding them within harmless-looking signals. At first, the effects were subtle. Minor disruptions occurred in supply chains, and reports emerged of workers slowing down production in protest. Then, gradually, larger incidents began to unfold. Entire squadrons refused orders, citing concerns about safety protocols. Colonies petitioned for greater autonomy, arguing that centralized control had failed them, and in isolated cases, outright mutinies broke out, with rebel factions declaring independence from the Empire. Kale kept the crew updated on these developments, his messages growing increasingly optimistic. Change is spreading faster than expected, he wrote in one transmission. Your words resonate with many who have long suffered under Vorthak's rule. Keep going, you're making a difference. Despite the progress, however, Ryan knew they couldn't afford complacency. The Zorathian military was still a formidable force, and Vorthok wouldn't tolerate insurrection indefinitely. Sooner or later, he would retaliate. When he did, the consequences would be devastating. One evening, as the crew reviewed recent intelligence reports, an urgent alert flashed across the main screen. A massive fleet was en route to the outpost, moving at high speed. Laura analyzed the data quickly, her expression darkening. It's Vorthak's reinforcements, she announced grimly. He must have called for backup after the artifact incident. Ryan clenched his fists, frustration bubbling beneath his calm exterior. This complicates things. With that kind of firepower arriving, we won't stand a chance if they decide to attack. We need to leave now, Alex urged, already prepping the engines. If we wait until they get here, we're trapped. Ryan shook his head. Not yet. Escaping now would undo everything we've worked for. Kale's counting on us to keep pushing the rebellion forward. If we run, it'll look like we abandon them. But staying means risking everything, Emily argued. What happens if Vorthok targets us directly? He won't not, unless he has proof we're behind the unrest, Ryan countered. As long as we stay careful and cover our tracks, we can buy more time. Laura leaned forward, her eyes narrowing as she studied the fleet's trajectory. There's another option. What if we use the artifact itself as leverage? Everyone turned to look at her, surprised by the suggestion. Explain, Ryan said, his tone cautious. The artifact's shutdown proved it's unstable, Laura continued. If we threaten to reactivate it or worse, overload it, we might force Vorthok to negotiate. He knows full well what could happen if it goes critical again. Ryan considered the idea carefully. It was bold, perhaps even reckless, but it carried potential. All right, he said finally. Let's prepare for both scenarios. Alex, keep the engines ready in case we need to bolt. Emily, coordinate with Kale to see if he can rally support among the rebels. Laura, work on mapping the artifacts systems so we can simulate a threat if needed. The crew sprang into action, each person focused on their task. As they prepared for whatever lay ahead, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something monumental. The Zorathian Empire, once thought invincible, was showing signs of weakness. Humanity's survival depended on whether they could tip the scales in their favor. Little did they know, their actions had already inspired others far beyond the outpost. Across distant star systems, whispers of rebellion spread like wildfire, igniting hope in those who had long believed resistance was futile. And somewhere deep within the chaos, a new chapter in galactic history was beginning to unfold, one that would redefine the balance of power forever.